Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today on the Electro-Voice various channels across social media land. My name is Mike Ducell. I'm the marketing manager for North America, and we all wanted to join you today to talk about our Evolve systems. Since we first launched Evolve just a few years ago, they've been an absolute juggernaut for us, selling tons of them, and really, you know, it's not only because they sound so good and look so good and they're so easy to put together, but, you know, really wanted to tell the story about why Evolve came to be and all the work that goes into it. You know, everything we do here at Electro-Voice is very much with design in mind and the user in mind. So I've brought some friends along with us today, actually across the globe. Mr. Mike Caston here sitting with me in Burnsville, Minnesota, has joined us, as well as Thomas Schlitmeyer. I think Thomas is in Germany, and Andy Grunlow, one of our product managers here at EV, in an unknown bunker, I think.
We hide him away.
somewhere in the U.S.
Yes.
Undisclosed location. He's sick of us, so he's just hiding in his basement somewhere. But thank you guys for joining us. For those of you watching, we'd certainly encourage you to share these videos if you've got someone out there that you think would be interested in learning more about what we're doing here with the Evolve systems and kind of the future. Any Q&A is really the goal here today. So, you know, as simple as they are to use, there's a lot of features. So we find that there's a lot of questions about how to use them or different details on the system. And we wanted to be able to answer those questions live for you here today. So we did ask some people to submit questions in advance. We will go through some of those, but certainly through the chat function, if you guys have anything you want to hear as we talk about this through the next half hour or so, certainly submit those and we'll do our best to answer those questions for you. But before we get started, wanted to kind of introduce the team a little bit further in depth. Guy sitting with me here at EV headquarters in Minnesota is Mr. Mike Caston. Mike, why don't you tell, I guess, the world a little bit about what you do for EV?
Sure. I've been with EV for 15 years now. I'm actually the engineering manager for the portable system. So all the products we're talking about today, the Evolve products, the ZLX through ETX and all the stuff that we sell through our great retailers, right?
Yeah.
And I do everything from personnel management to design still, and have done quite a bit of system design over the years, and everything from, you know, what type of materials to use, to what transducers, to what parts of the transducers, to every aspect of it, deep in the acoustics, deep in the measurement. It's kind of a all-encompassing field, and I enjoy it a lot.
So from an engineering level, you're kind of involved in every aspect of product development for portable loudspeakers, certainly which Evolve kind of fall into that category here. So, okay.
Yep.
And then with our team virtually out here in the rest of the world, Mr. Thomas Schlitmeyer. Thomas, are you in Straubing right now? Is that correct?
Yes, correct. I'm in Straubing in Germany. It's kind of the headquarters of Dynacord, and I'm part of the engineering group here in Straubing. I was also deeply involved in the Evolve development. And so what else I have to do is I'm responsible for mechanical engineering, also for acoustical designs, and of course the whole electronics development is here in Straubing as well.
Well, I appreciate you joining us here. I know it's we've got a bit of a time change, so you're probably taken away from your dinner this evening. So thanks for joining us, and we'll get more out of you very soon. I'm really interested because I deal with the guys here all the time, but hearing what you've done on some of these projects, I think is going to be very interesting, not only for me, but for the entire audience. So thank you for joining us. And again, from his undisclosed bunker, Mr. Andy Grunlow. And Andy, you are a product manager for EV. Tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Yeah, so I'm one of the global product managers for portable speakers, which includes the Evolve speakers as well as a same product group as Mike Caston, right? So our two ways, our subs, typically MI product, and that entails both managing the existing product, so lifecycle management of things that are currently on the market, but also kind of the more fun part is future product development and setting the roadmap for what we want to develop in the future. So kind of balancing between managing existing product and where we want to take the product in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure there'll be some questions regarding that as far as what might be coming next for EV, and we'll see if we can squeeze you for a little bit of information. I'm not sure what you'll give us, but I'm going to try because I always want to know. But well, thanks guys for joining, and I guess as far as the Q&A again, we would encourage everybody out there watching to submit any questions via chat, and we'll try to address those. But we did have some people, as I mentioned earlier, submit some questions previously. So I guess the first question going to you, Andy, since we've got you all ready to go. I guess the question comes from Marcus in Indiana. Why would I pick an EV column system over another brand? I think I know the answer to this, but we'll see how good you do.
Well, I would start with, understanding who EV is as a company. We've been doing professional audio for over 90 years, right? We don't make consumer audio products and then try to we're a pro audio company. So when we design a product, whether it's an Evolve or a two-way box, but when we design a product, we design it from the beginning, from the ground up as a professional audio product. And I think, I truly do believe that gives us a great advantage, both in, performance, as well as the overall design. We're thinking about it. How do our users use and abuse our products? Because let's be honest, pro audio users, these are tools, they get used hard. So we think about it, from that aspect. We put a lot of focus in our user experience, right? Observing how customers use the products. We do a lot of surveys. We get a lot of input to make sure our products really meet their needs. And that we make them as simple and as intuitive to use, so that when you're out there running a show, you're not, digging through menus or trying to flip exact switches and stuff. It's just really quick to make those adjustments and keep the show going. So
I've seen the work that you guys do. Yeah, as far as getting that user input, before you even start a project, I think is really important. Absolutely, and considering the whole product, from the ground up and designing it, for its intended purpose. On top of that, we have 90 years of experience in acoustics and electronics, right? So our acoustic and electronic performance is, it's outstanding. Like with the Evolves, we have the waveguide formed horizontal dispersion pattern, right? 120 degrees horizontal. And that's like even, right? It's across all frequencies evenly there. We're not just putting some drivers out there and shooting it out there and hoping it covers widely. We make sure we control that. So, really taking the time to do the acoustics right, do the electronics right, to get the performance that we know our users need. Yeah, I think another important point that you kind of touched on was, the fact that we're doing this at a professional level, right? I think a lot of our competitors, play in the consumer electronics world as well. And I think there's a different set of needs and maybe some bleed over between the two. I mean, pro audio is all we do. Right. It's kind of that industrial grade, the real deal Holyfield. I mean, this is stuff that's made to really be abused. We're not, using components off a shelf and just throwing them in a box and calling it good. I mean, like you said, from the ground up, professional stuff is really what we're doing. So, I mean, and the results are there. At the end of the day, you've got a product that's superior, to its competitors at any price point, and we can get into, I think, the details of that, specifically with Evolve, as we go through the next half hour here. But you're absolutely right as far as why would you choose an EV column system over another brand? And I think that is the answer because of the brand, because it's what we represent, and not only Evolve, but everything we do. So I totally agree with that. We've got another question. This one coming from John in Florida. It says, actually, this one's for Thomas. John says, I own one of these, but I've always wondered, what does the Powered by Dynacord logo on the input panel mean? I assume he means he owns an Evolve 30M, I think. I guess, do we have that logo on the 50 as well? I guess yes. I don't remember. Yep. Okay. We've got it on all of them. So I guess I'm not sure if that's a 30M or which one he owns, but he's asking what does the Powered by Dynacord logo mean? So Thomas, can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that question. I appreciate it. So I can talk a little bit about Dynacord. What does that mean? So it means that, first of all, Dynacord and Electro-Voice are sibling brands for just quite some years now. And our development departments work together very closely. Also in this product, especially in this product. And Dynacord has pretty as long history as EV has. So it started 1946 roundabout, so it's 75 years this year. And
75th.
Sure. Okay. 75th, yeah. And there were a lot of great stuff made and designed in that time. And we put all this heritage from this brand in the products and designed the Evolve electronics from ground up with great mic pre's from the analog consoles that we have. We have a lot of knowledge about that, the analog stuff. Then we have great power amplifiers. So the latest developments there are really concert sound, great amplifiers. We have DSP controllers, which with huge DSP brain in it, and we took all this knowledge, technology, and designed the Evolve electronics from that with studio grade components, with effects, with own algorithms that we designed for that effect section, and so is all.
The Dynacord portion of Evolve is kind of the electronics and the brain and even the power behind the devices, right? With the amplifier, the DSP, the mixer section, a lot of that stuff that you guys did that kind of came from Dynacord. So again, to give a little bit of context to that, Dynacord, I think, and Electro-Voice have resided under the same corporate umbrella for many, many, many years. And they both kind of did similar things for many years.
Dynacord did loudspeakers for some time.
Dynacord, electronics, and a lot of Dynacord products. I mean, Dynacord produced loudspeakers. I mean, I've got some D-Lite speakers myself. I love those things. They're
great stuff.
One of my favorites. But a couple of years ago, we made the corporate decision to kind of define those brands a little bit further, where Electro-Voice really is the transducer side of that with loudspeakers,
the acoustics,
right?
And
Dynacord becomes the electronics with DSP, amplification, mixers, things like that. So,
and like Thomas said, we work
we've kind
really
of
well together.
These two brands together. So,
and maybe I can mention something that I forgot. Sure. So we also have an app for that Evolve products,
right?
And as well for other EV products, and we designed and programmed this app also in-house, which is a great benefit, I think, because we can react very in short term on any things that we want to add, options or features. This is great.
Yeah, I've seen several revisions to the app already in just the short time it's been out, and improvements to the user interface and
more
functionality is really great. So we'll get into more details as far as what some of these things do again, but I think that was a good question to kind of set the table for, you know, who Dynacord is and how does that marry to the Electro-Voice brand with the Evolve system. So I'm sure we'll see further products, with those sort of things in mind. You see it on our concert sound systems with, the big X2 rigs being married with Dynacord amplifiers, the TGX and things like that. So
IPX.
I think there's more of that to come, but wanted to also ask a question, Mike, maybe you can take this one. And maybe a little bit simpler than the ones the first guys had, but one I see certainly all the time, because I know now that we've come out with a few different Evolve systems. The systems are kind of made to be all in one. But Maria is asking, are the poles on the Evolve systems interchangeable?
Yes, they are to some degree. So we also have accessory poles that are smaller poles, but yes, they have the same conductor set in them, the same magnetic coupling set, so you can swap between the two freely. That's fine.
And although it works, though, do we want them to do that?
Well, can I jump in real quick?
Okay.
Mike, you mind if I jump in real quick? Yeah, I think what the other Mike is saying is, they do technically fit. There is a little bit, maybe a subtle note to add here that the Evolve 30M, right, uses that two-piece pole, and we do not recommend using that for the Evolve 50 or the 50M, right? And that's because that pole is a little bit taller and it's a two-piece pole, and the 50, of course, is a little bit bigger column. And we run into an area where we don't want the speaker to be, I guess, too top heavy is what I'd want to say. So we don't recommend using the two-piece pole on the 50 series. Yeah, but you can use the 50 pole.
The shorter poles, right?
You can always go shorter.
Okay.
Right. I think that's the best way to put it. You can always go shorter.
Okay, but don't extend. Don't try to use the long pole. Because and that's it's just center of gravity sort of
right. And that's all listed in. That's all listed in the manuals too. So.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, this is simple enough. I mean, Mike, maybe this one we'll go back to you on this. How does EV engineer its speakers? I mean, this is a very broad question.
Yeah, this is a big one.
How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Right?
So it starts with developing the requirements and trying to figure out exactly where that product, what performance level it should have, where. What functions, what features, everything from like weight to color to like where it's used, everything, right?
Right.
You define all that, then you start specifying materials and figuring out what transducer complements you're going to do and modify those transducers if they're not meeting your desire, and which they generally aren't. Okay. In this case, Andy mentioned it earlier, we wanted the 120-degree consistent coverage pattern. We figured that we determined that 120 degrees was the optimum solution for this type of product, right? And we were looking at competitive products and we're like, they say they're really wide, but it's only in a limited frequency range. Okay. Right. So and
is it the highs or the lows that they typically fall off on?
The high frequencies are going to end up beaming a lot of the time because they're not using a waveguide when you use a larger transducer, the higher the frequency, the smaller wavelength, and then at some point they start beaming. Okay. Right. So we use waveguides to spread it out, and we do that. We did, FEA modeling on that to figure out the acoustics of it to make sure that it was consistent to cover that over a broad frequency range.
Right.
And then we, did acoustic measurements and validation of that and made sure the distortions were good and the overall response was good. And, we do that at every aspect of this, and while we're doing it, we're considering how are we powering it, thermal capabilities of the transducers, thermal capability of the amplifier. Sure. It's quite in depth.
It's a process.
It's quite in depth, and we do all of this design. I'll kind of like try to wrap it up because this could go on and on and on. But
Yeah, right.
we do all of this design and then we validate it to the nth degree. We beat the crap out of it. We torture it.
Listening tests for weeks. And
abundant
months
listening
and,
tests. Yes.
Oh.
Tunings are a major part of our process, and we hope that the customer sees that in the end, because that's ultimately what, like we create the core acoustics and then we give it the EV sound by putting that last touch in
sprinkle
there.
a little magic
Right.
dust on top, and
Right.
that's why it
So
sounds
and then
good.
make sure that it's super reliable and rock solid, and then improve it.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned, the waveguides, because that I think is a unique feature of Evolve, especially when we compare it to our competitors. If you look under the grill of any of our competitors, really, they're, a lot of them are just pointing the drivers in different directions, kind of
or they're
spraying
just
it all over the place,
straight in a line or whatever.
Right. There's no summation. There's no real control over that.
You're going to end up getting some lobing at some high frequencies because they're not summing like an array, and you're going to end up getting some beaming in different directions, and your vertical pattern control is not going to be as well controlled. It's trade-offs.
Okay.
It's trade-offs, but we think that we made the better trade-offs.
Andy, I want to go back to you with this one.
And actually,
sure. Do you want to elaborate on that first?
Well, I just want to mention something that, that Mike and Thomas have both kind of mentioned, which helped answer my first question even better. They keep saying we do these things. And I think that's an important thing to mention, that we do. Electro-Voice does. We have all those engineering capabilities in-house, from transducer design, mechanical design, software design. Everything is us doing it. So when you think about it, why to maybe choose EV as a brand, it's because we really are in control of every aspect of the design, and we do have that expertise in-house. We're not farming things out. So I just wanted to point that out, that they've done, they're helping me answer that first question out a little bit more.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I want to take that though, and maybe go back a little bit further. I think get a little more focused on what the Evolve's systems are for. We talked a lot about the process of talking to end users and really understanding their needs. But now that we have a few different Evolve systems available, what would you say, Andy, are the different target markets? Are they all built for the same application?
Well, they're all built for sound reinforcement, so I guess you could say it's all the same application. But I think you're talking about to the different users, whether it's a musician or a small duo, trio, small band, or if it's a mobile entertainer, a DJ, or even a small production or medium to large production rental house, right? And really we focus on. I think our core customers tend to be musicians and DJs in that production group. And the production group is often supporting musicians. So oftentimes we see the needs are very similar. So I think those would be our core customers. I think, are you asking about maybe the differentiation between a 30M and say an Evolve 50, Mike?
Well, the question was a little vague, but I think it gives us an opportunity to talk to the differences between the systems. For instance, the Evolve 50 was the first one that we came out with. Then we added the 30M. So obviously, right on its face, the size difference, we've got some acoustic changes and overall level changes. I think the 50 will get louder than the 30M, but at the same time, the 30M offers some unique features that the 50 doesn't have. And if we talk through those as far as the benefits of adding that mixer, that additional inputs, or I should say those additional inputs, I think the advantage there, where the 50 is a pretty straightforward system for all. I think everybody can get on board with using that system for a variety of different applications. But when you reach your limit as far as the number of inputs, right, and that's where you start talking about musicians, maybe a little bit more than DJs, or rental houses, bands that have a need for additional microphone input, instrument inputs. That's where that additional input channel is going to come become important. So while I think these systems are available and able to be used by everybody, really looking at that feature set and tailoring it to your specific needs, I think is important, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and I think, go ahead. Why don't you go, Mike? Then I'll go.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, for example, if you prefer to use a external analog mixing desk or digital mixing desk, right, you may not need the mixing functions of the 30M or 50M. But if you want to ditch that desk, leave it at home, and run a small band off the however many inputs you have, you might want to go towards the 30M, 50M, right? And
sure, that makes a lot of sense. I think as far as the setup is concerned, it really, we've added a lot of flexibility, right? Obviously, we took the 50 as a pretty basic system, but great sounding.
Right.
We added some mixer functionality to the 30M, and now we see that next level of mixer functionality with the 50M, which we just launched. So, Thomas, to you, I'd like to talk a little bit about that newest functionality with the QuickSmart Link. And so now we took essentially what was the mixer section from the 30M, and we implemented it into the 50M, but added this QuickSmart Link. And what does that enable us to do? And how did you guys think to be able to come up with this? Because I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great idea, of course. I would like to add something to the discussion before. So the 50 does not have effects, but the 50M and the 30M does have effects. So this is also a differentiation. If you need effects, if you want effects, you probably go to the 50 or 30M. Okay, the QuickSmart Link. So if, for example, if you don't want to bring your mixing desk and you are happy with the so if you need a couple of mic inputs and 4 is not enough, so you can set up a stereo system with 250 amps, and we added a RJ45 connector, and you can take a simple and low cost cable, Ethernet cable, to connect these two systems and make a stereo system out of them. And you do not have to think a lot about it, how this works, because you simply have on your smart device and in the app, you have on each input channel of both systems a panning knob, and you can pan each of the inputs left and right. And so that's easy for everybody.
Yep.
And we are we made our own network connection here. It's not really a network, it's a digital audio connection where we cross feed the signals left to right, right to left.
So essentially what you were able to do then is share the mixer section and double the amount of inputs. You're using the inputs from both of those systems, and we are limited to just 2 of them, correct?
Yes.
We can't
keep it's a stereo setup,
right?
Yeah, right.
Okay,
but you have
16
channels total, so this is
that's a pretty significant.
Do quite a bit.
Yeah, right. and you think about it, for me, you're just thinking about the evolution of loudspeakers in the last 15 years. I mean, it used to be passive speakers with outboard amplifiers, outboard DSP, outboard mixers.
Yep.
And then we started adding amplifiers to the speaker, and we started adding DSP to the speakers, and now we're cramming a mixer into the speaker. So I don't know what else is left, unless you guys can figure out a way to get a guitar into the back of these. I think we've reached the end of our road now, but I don't know. You guys might surprise me.
We'll try to surprise you still.
But pretty impressive. Real quick, guys, I just want to take a quick break from the questions that came in before we started this and do a little bit of a rapid fire and really catch up on some of the questions that are coming in from the folks that are actually asking questions live and watching right now. I want to make sure that they don't say, they forgot about me. So coming in from, and I'll just fire them off and you guys do the best you can with them. Larry Watts Jr. is asking, and I'll send this one to Andy Grunlow, can we get adjustable poles on the Evolve 50 and 30s? Is that possible?
Well, is that possible? I guess at this moment, there's nothing currently available to make it adjustable. One thing that would make that difficult is all the internal connections, right? All the electrical connections are inside the pole. So if the overall height is adjustable, we have to have a way to, of course, maintain those connections and over time. So at this moment, nothing's planned. We do have the short pole right now available as an accessory. And I'll be honest, you're not the first person we've heard ask for different size poles or adjustable poles. And we are listening. I would just say stay tuned.
Yeah. I think the point is that all of these systems are engineered with the pole that it comes with to be really at its maximum height that it's allowable. Right. So extending beyond that really isn't possible because, it becomes a tip hazard. Using that short pole as an accessory, however, is possible. So if you do want to lower that height, that is a way to do it. So moving on and Mike, I'll throw this one to you. This coming from Stuart Price. How does power ratings, i.e. 1 kilowatt, relate to traditional loudspeakers? I'm not sure exactly what he means, but I'm wondering if that translates to is 1,000 watts for an Evolve system as loud as 1,000 watts on a traditional loudspeaker?
Power can be very deceptive in terms of ratings. I'm not sure, Stuart, if you're talking about the power rating of the transducers of, say, a passive system, right? Now that's really the thermal power handling that the loudspeaker system or the transducers in that system can handle versus what the amplifier is generating. When we spec a 1,000 watt powered system, we are speccing the amplifier power in this case, not the transducer power. And then the DSP and the protection algorithms inside of the power amplifier protect the speakers in terms of thermal and peak excursion and things of that nature. Okay. It's really a amplifier power rating.
Okay. Right. And in the end, it's the efficiency of the transducer.
Yeah. Let me double back on that.
To the overall loudness. Though.
Probably, yeah. And that loudness, the maximum SPL, that type of value is probably more of a useful metric for people to compare a product in this market, right? Yeah,
absolutely. People ask me all the time, how many watts is it? And my first question back to them is, why do you think that matters? Right. Because
you can have a 3,000 watt system that has low sensitivity that has less acoustic output than a 1,000 watt system easily.
Exactly. Right. Maximum SPL is generally what we want to achieve with a lower wattage number than
because we're looking for efficiency. We want you guys burning less power and less heat and everything else, right? So
heat bad, fire bad.
Yes, I have taught you this by now.
I don't know. I'm not as smart as you guys, but I know that much. Fire bad. So as long as we keep it with that. So we have another question coming in from Isaac, and this one I'll send to Andy. Any chance of you guys making powered speakers that look and sound like the satellites on the Evolve series? Just the tops, built-in amps that don't require a sub. So I think he's wondering if we could get something that looked like an Evolve.
I think I saw a follow-up point on that. He said that a lot of them would like to use external, different subwoofers.
I see. Okay. Right? I see what he's saying there. Okay.
Right.
Andy, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, as a general rule, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to be the party pooper. I can't talk about future product roadmap. I can't talk about what we are or what we aren't working on.
Now I know why you didn't come in here today, because I can't hold you to it.
I apologize. I know that's not a very satisfactory, satisfying answer to hear.
I can expand on that a little though.
Oh, hang on.
When you're done.
Yeah. I know it's not a very, satisfying answer to get that. I'm sorry, we can't tell you about what we're working on. What I can say is that we do read, a lot of user comments quite regularly, both online, on social media. We do a lot of, voice of customer surveys or interviews with their key retailers, and we're always listening to figure out what our customers are looking for, what problems they're trying to solve. So we really do appreciate input like that. And so by all means,
I think half the comments are from guys. There's a delay there.
Sorry,
Sorry, Andy. I think we got a little bit of a weird audio delay happening. Internet slow or something here in the building. So continue with what you were saying.
I guess I don't know where I cut off, so I apologize if I repeat myself. But what we do is we really do appreciate those comments about what products people are looking for.
We lost Andy or not, so we'll move on a little bit. I should move on. Okay, thanks, guys.
I can expand
Andy,
on that last point real quick.
And yeah, Mike, why don't you take it?
So I think Andy's point more or less got across there. We're listening. We may. We can't tell you what we're working on, but there are options that you can use. I mean, there's a reason the Evolves have an aux out on them. You can bring an additional subwoofer to pair with that. There's reasons why we don't have the power top alone. The power top alone has a limited frequency range, and you do need to pair it with a sub. And when you design a loudspeaker system like this, you don't just take a sub and a top and mash them together. Right. There's some complex summation that we do there to make sure that they're done right.
Yeah.
And if you just pair it with any other sub, that doesn't work. Now, if you take any EV sub and you drop it next to the Evolve sub and you aux off of that, you can expand your low frequency system that way. That's an option for you at the very least. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but
you guys have touched on, I think, as far as we can go with that. I think it was a good question, an interesting one, Isaac. I'm just going to also say that I think, what you will find is a lot of our traditional loudspeakers, say ZLX, ELX 200, EKX, and even ETX, share a lot of those same design aesthetics that Evolve has, right? You'll see throughout our family similar looking grills, kind of these chamfered beveled edges on the sides, right. Very similar angles and shapes that we use, consistent throughout it. So even though you may not see, at least today, or maybe not even in the future, a specific like an Evolve top, what you would see is ZLX looks an awful lot like it, and that would essentially be that same solution for you. So consider those as options for you. Hopefully that'll work. Just moving on to a couple of other questions. I'll actually take this one. Stuart Price is asking, considering using the system EV50 for a 4-piece cover band doing weddings and events, how does the system perform? Stuart, I'm going to tell you, it's just going to be perfect for that. Weddings, generally speaking, you're looking at crowds of 200 people, give or take. The EV50s, that size, shape, weight, are going to be perfect. Now, if it's a 4-piece cover band, I would highly recommend you check out the Evolve 50M. If you don't already have an external mixer that you're using, if you want to use the internal mixer section, look at the EV50M. If you already do have a mixer that you're used to and want to keep going down that road, the Evolve 50s are a perfect solution for that. So I would say you could ask anyone. I think there's even an Evolve owners group on Facebook. Feel free to chime in there. Don't take our word for it. Ask the group in there. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of Evolve system owners in that group, and it's not a group that's run by EV. These are just fans of the product, people that have it and use it all the time, and they can certainly share insight as well. So be sure to check that out. Charles Odom is asking, will we ever see a battery-powered version of the Evolve? The small company I run with my family absolutely love EV. Thank you, Charles, for that. We have ELX 200s, 15, 18 SP, and an Evolve 50. We even moved over to the RE3 ND76. Charles, you are an EV Stud. We love you, man. Thank you so much for all of that. Which, by the way, is the best mic I've used. We are anticipating a battery-operated or battery-powered solution that not only competes with the JBL Compact, Bose S1, and Behringer, blah, 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 but blows the competition away. Is that something we'll see anytime soon? Andy, I'm not even going to give you a chance to answer this. I'm just going to say, Charles, there's a good chance. And I'm going to leave it at that. I won't say anything more. I won't say anything less. Let's just say it's a very strong possibility. And just hang in there with us. That's all I'm going to say. Just hang in there. We're working on things. We're listening all the time. We might just have something hopefully soon. Charles says, I see later on, he says, we even named our dog Evie.
Wow. Nice.
I love that. Oh my
love
God.
it too.
Well, Charles, would you send us a picture sometime with your Evie dog with your Evie gear, and we'd love to see that sometime. So
cool.
Shout out to Chris, shout out to Luca, all these guys that are chiming in. So thank you to all you guys. I'm trying to scan again, see if there's additional questions coming in. Here's one coming in from Laurent J.R. Armenta. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. I'm running 2 Evolve 50s, one left, one right. I run a cable from the outputs of my mixer, one left and one right. Do I need to plug into both inputs of the Evolve 50 or just one to create a stereo effect? Thomas, would you like to explain that? I think he's asking, should he run his outputs to each side or run a left and a right? So can you explain that a little bit?
I'm not sure if I understood it correctly. So what I see is that we need some effects here. The best way would be to go out from the mixer right in one of the EV 50s, Evolve 50s, and then run a cable from the mix out to the other Evolve 50s, and then you can adjust the effects, and you can hear it on both systems.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this was related to Bluetooth streaming or not. I think it sounds like she was asking if it came from the console. If you're running from a console and you have a left and right out, and they're panned already left and right, you only need the one cable in each of all 50 speaker. You don't need to run a separate one.
You don't
in
need
each
to
of
run
them.
a left and right to each of them, assuming you want to achieve that stereo effect.
Right.
And you want the left side coming out.
And if you want to mix a mono, you can just do it from your desk. Anyway,
right. So I think what you're doing there is just fine. I wouldn't change it from what you're doing there, Laurent. So keep up the good work and appreciate the fact that you're supporting EV. Thank you so much. So moving along here, it looks like Edwin is asking, I have the Evolve 50s. Would the EVID 4.2s be a good match in a small lounge setting? Volume settings are mostly background ambient music levels. Interesting question. I never thought of pairing EVID 4.2s with Evolves. I think that's kind of different there. I assume maybe the Evolves are portable there, Edwin, and maybe you're saying with the EVID 4.2s if they were installed. The thing about EVIDs there is that they're very much made to be installed. They're not really portable, right? The connections on the back, I think they're just push pin inserts. And with the bracket, they're generally mounted on a wall, so they're not moving. So assuming that they're going to stay put, would they match as far as the voicing? Obviously, you can control the volume to those two systems independently. So you could change that however you'd like. As far as the voicing, I think the one thing that maybe Mike you can talk about is the consistency of EV voicing throughout really our entire product range, right? And I think that's maybe an interesting point for Edwin here.
Yeah, I think again, we might need some more details to answer that question better for you.
Right.
But if you're asking if the EVID 4.2s would be a good option for like background music in a small lounge, they're kind of perfect for that. right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're designed for, but they'll also get up and rock too. And in terms of just overall tonality and tuning, we have a process that we use for making sure that our products sound like our products and also exceed the quality of other brands.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that, well, since I've been here. So, and beyond. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a very consistent sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I guess the question is, could you mix and match really any EV product? I would say the answer to that is yes. And the sky's the limit, and only your imagination can limit, which products you want to put together and how you want to use them. Really depends on your application. But, I hate to say it, but, the questions are coming in faster than we can possibly answer here. I mean, this is our first time doing this live stream, so I think it went really well. I hate that I have to cut it short, but unfortunately we scheduled this for a half hour. I tell you what, anybody watching out there, I promise you this went so well. We're going to do more of these. If you asked a question and we couldn't get to it, we will try to answer all of them in the comments. So stay tuned for that. And, Mike, Thomas, Andy, thank you all for joining me today. Really appreciate this. I think it went great. Let's do more of these. Can we commit to that? Is that
Sure,
cool?
we can do that.
All right.
Sure.
Thanks to Becca and Eric behind the scenes here, making sure that everything is working miraculously. Fantastic job to the entire team. And for those of you out there watching, really appreciate your time. Feel free to add in additional comments or questions. And like I said, we'll try to answer all of them and do more of these in the future. So from Birdsville, Minnesota EV headquarters, thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Hope you all have a great rest of your week and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.